Hello everybody, Nathan Adams here, and let me tell you what I think, because everybody has their opinions, and we want to just hear all of them, don't we? Actually, what I want to do here is do a little video and actually start a channel, and my goal is to talk about how to talk about political differences in opinion. Because the problem is that if you have your opinion and you don't want to hear anybody else's, then unless you're perfect, which I haven't found anybody who's perfect yet, unless you're perfect, it's going to become corrupted, it's going to become too one-sided, you're not going to hear or learn or grow to become progressive and learn new ways. And if you are so virtuous that you want to be progressive and change everything for the better, then you need to learn how people feel and what other opinions are out there. Whether or not you agree with them, it's important to know about them. There's no way to know about them if you don't listen. So what that means is a sacrifice. You're going to have to, we all are going to have to, I'm not trying to preach to anybody, I have to work on this myself, but the goal is to sacrifice a little bit of your pride and your, the fact that you know exactly what's right and wrong, to hear out other people and maybe see if you can learn something that a different perspective that you didn't consider before. Because then it allows us to bridge the gap between people we don't agree with and come to conclusions, come to solutions together so we can become a productive society that we have to be. I mean, we have to be that, otherwise what's going to happen? We're going to spiral out of control, we're going to be polarized, we're going to have a civil war. I mean, at this rate, it's not looking good, people. So yeah, that's what my video is all about. Let's get started on the first issue. So the first issue has to do with Sarah Huckabee Sanders being denied service at the restaurant in Lexington, Virginia. I have seen some people online comparing this to the bakery shop owner who denied service to the gay couple for making the cake for them. And I think that's a problem where we start to go down the wrong road politically, because everything is so polarized now. Instead of talking about issues as singular issues, we kind of group them together and say, well, if you don't agree with this, then I don't agree with that. And so I'm going to retaliate by kicking you out of my restaurant, which is just not productive. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that the restaurant owner in Lexington was denying service to Sarah Huckabee Sanders in retaliation to the bakery that denied service to the gay couple, because obviously those are two different issues. What I'm talking about is the illogical conclusion that's drawn between these two premises, and which is shared on Twitter and in like meme form all over the internet and goes viral inside of the bubble on the left, because there's bubbles on both sides, and I don't like closed-minded ideologies at all, so I'm going to condemn both of them. And it just so happens that this incident that I'm referring to is against the left side. And that is that it's not a logical conclusion to say that because somebody denied service over here, it's justified to deny service over there. First of all, because these two precedences and these two premises are unrelated, so it doesn't make sense to compare them. And secondly, because you can't justify your actions because something else happened before. A precedent was set before that you didn't agree with, but now since it's been set, you get to say that it's okay. It doesn't, whether or not it's logical, and maybe you can get a consensus to be had that more people agree with you on that, it's not a productive way of discussing the issue. The more productive way, in my opinion, is to not compare these two issues since they're separate and they are not comparable, and instead to look at both of them and talk about them in a productive way so that you can maybe learn about the other perspective and try to come to a conclusion. Come to a conclusion. So the thing with the Supreme Court case, having to do with the cake, that's something we can talk about. But this person being kicked out of the restaurant, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, I keep saying it that way, Sarah Huckabee Sanders being kicked out of the restaurant, that's just a story that was written and people are getting enraged about and talking about, and it doesn't matter. Really, it doesn't matter. It's not a law. It's like, you might disagree with it, and that's fine. I don't like it either. I don't like people being kicked out of restaurants in general. But I don't want to talk about it. I don't think it's helpful. I think it's just a arbitrary political mess. And by engaging in it, we just draw those divisive lines thicker and darker, and it doesn't help. My point is, in conclusion, that let's talk about what matters. Let's talk about right versus wrong. Let's not compare two different issues which are not related and then try to justify another with some other thing. Let's just try to talk about things together so that we can come to, more consensus as a population of humans in the universe, in the earth, in the country, however specific you want to get. The point is we're all in this together. So let's focus on that. That's what I think. Hey, real quick, before I go, I thought of a way, as I was watching the video to kind of edit it down a little bit, I thought of more things to say. But I figured I could conclude it more concisely here. And that is basically to say that, when we're looking at issues, we have to look at both sides because both sides have merit. And if we say that, one side is just wrong, that's just not going to work. And we have to recognize that moving forward, that we need everybody, even those that we disagree with, and we have to listen to them and at least hear what they say so we can learn from it. And say if it's wrong, for example, we hear them out completely, we can see why they're so wrong, and then we can come to a solution better. But just shutting them out, it's going to have an adverse effect. It's going to be the opposite of what we need. So to conclude, both sides do this, That's the problem, is that both sides of the political spectrum have extreme ends, which is why it's a spectrum. And so if either of them engage in any type of political games, which is what I call it when you manipulate the system and do propaganda and say passive-aggressive remarks and imply things and stuff like that, none of that stuff is objective. It's all subjective, emotional, appealing stuff, and that's never a good thing to engage in. Because, when you're dealing with legal situations and with life or death situations and the future of our society situations, you have to look at those situations primarily as what would you do if you were there and how can we work on this together? Not, I don't like how she says this. That doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is how we can move forward together, and let's talk about these issues objectively, like individuals. And how do you talk like an individual if you don't know what the hell you're talking about? So I don't care what the issue is. I don't care to call myself liberal or conservative. I care to call myself an individual who wants to learn and think about every issue independently, as an issue independently, and as a person, as an individual. So that's what I call upon when I make these videos, is that I want everyone to just remember the only way for us to get through this together is to look at the man in the mirror. I have to elicit that Michael Jackson song. But start with the individual, see what we can do to make the world a better place. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.